Welcome to Card Knock Life Plays. Today I've got an exciting Naya brew for you. I wanted badly for this to be a Card Knock Life Plays featuring Vannifar, but it's not there yet, and I don't want to put anything forward that I'm not 100% behind. I think that the argument is strong for just general aggro strategies in this meta, and I think that this deck presents that as an alternative. But it also makes use of some of the new cards, like Rhythm of the Wilds. I guess that's actually the only one. But I was interested in Rhythm after testing out the Vannifar deck quite a bit, and thinking that this card is also an enabler for some combos with Kitchen Finks and Viscera Seer, or Murderous Redcap and Viscera Seer, and also kind of provides like an alternative to just being aggressive and to attacking when your combo plan fails. So I tested out a 4-color version of that for a while. I'm also not completely behind that one. I had some mixed results, a couple of really strong leagues and a couple where I just got housed by Jund and Abzan decks. So I'm still working on that. I'm not done with it, but I'll be coming back to it shortly. The mana base is also a little tough for 4-color in Modern, where you're doing a lot of shocking to yourself. So this one is just a straight up Naya, basically mid-range or tempo zoo type of deck. And I think Rhythm provides a lot for this deck because this deck tends to basically take advantage of the opposing combo decks that maybe take some time to set up or pack little removal. And you can just be aggressive and get in there with a lot of value and a lot of creatures and a lot really fast. But when it comes to the matchups like Jeskai and things like that, where you are dealing with like the long game, having haste is pretty important to those matchups, as well as not being able to be countered. So that is pretty fantastic for those games. Now this comes out oftentimes in sideboard when we're dealing with creature heavy decks, because we don't necessarily want to take a turn off for this when we can be advancing our game or removing their creatures. So we've got a lot of removal to bring in those cases, things like that. But there are a couple of interesting interactions with the card in the deck, and they seem like minor things, but I think that haste really makes a huge difference. One being like Grim Lavamancer is really strong with haste. You know, putting a 1-mana Grim Lavamancer into play and being able to shock something right away is really strong. Wild Nacatl as a 1-mana 4/4, also strong, but more importantly, a 1-mana 3/3 haste is usually enough to, it's a Lava Spike, you know, it's damage, and the same is true with Selfless Spirit, with flying. But most importantly, when you play things like Bloodbraid Elf, you're basically putting double duty on the Rhythm of the Wilds, because Bloodbraid Elf gets the +1/+1 counter from the Riot, and the card that it puts into play, the creature that it puts into play, if it's a creature, can also then attack with haste. So best case scenario, you get Bloodbraid into Knight of the Reliquary. Knight of the Reliquary is a 6/6 haste. You're attacking for 9 out of nowhere, which is pretty fantastic, I think. Knight of the Reliquary is another great card to give haste to. Obviously, you want to be using that ability early and often. And then I've got the one of Kitchen Finks for that sort of abuse of the recursive engine there for life gain. I've got a couple more Finks in the sideboard if that is really relevant to you. Now, oftentimes, life is good, right? But there's so many matchups in Modern where infinite life just doesn't matter, and I found that out testing out the Kitchen Finks Viscera Seer combo version of this deck. So it's tempting to put more in, but I don't think it's right. I don't think it's correct to put too many more Kitchen Finks in. I'd rather have room for this value package with Tracker, Courser, and Knight of the Reliquary, because it seems to do more for us here. I also think Voice of Resurgence is once again a pretty strong choice for Modern. It also fills a valid 2-drop role here. I don't want to go into the Tarmogoyf plan necessarily, but I think that this guy provides more of a versatile threat. Now, notably, the token does not get Riot. It's non-token creatures, so that is something to keep in mind when you're dealing with that. But I think Voice is still a good way to kind of challenge your opponent to interact in maybe a little bit more creative ways, or maybe you just get some extra value when they're forced to do instant speed interactions. So once again, punishing the kind of controlling matchups. So in my sideboard, like I said, a lot of removal to bring in. I've got a Teeg here because I'm very light on... Actually, there's nothing in my deck that can be stopped by Teeg, so that's important to keep in mind. He's just very, very strong where he's good. Domri is great value engine against the grindier matchups, and also provides more opportunity to kill 4+ toughness creatures, which is usually a weakness of red-based removal decks. But I have Domri, I've got Path, and I've got 2 Fiery Justice in my side, all which can deal with cards like Reality Smasher, Thought-Knot Seer, Tassiger, Gurmag Angler, that kind of thing. Thalia, obviously pretty good. The 1-mana tax on these spells is a little funky when you Bloodbraid Elf into like a Lightning Helix, for example, but you just have to kind of be prepared for that situation or take the risk when you're going that route. I like Shalai because it also gives you opportunities to grind, but the cost of the card allows it to survive a lot of the common removal in the format. 4 mana is not easy to deal with when Fatal Push is prevalent. Now, I know Fatal Push can deal with a 4 mana creature, but it takes a bit of setup. It's not an auto kill. It survives Bolt. Path is fine against it, obviously, but I think it's a pretty good shield to at least provide some time against your opponent. And if you can give it haste, once again, good. I think flyers with haste in Modern are almost always going to connect with your opponent unless you're up against a Lingering Souls deck. So we're going to try this with in a few games, and I do promise to come back with the sort of Kitchen Finks combo version of the deck once I get it kind of ironed out. So stay tuned for that, but until then, enjoy some Rhythm Zoo.